don't care.
Hillary Clinton supporters, they're trying to push her towards a White House bid already, even though Al Gore lectured us this morning on the Today Show. Stop talking about 2016. But these Hillary Clinton supporters are starting a super PAC already. And it's called, guess what? Ready for Hillary. Well, we want to let you know we're watching live pictures, of course. That is Secretary of State Hillary Clinton right now holding a town hall at the Newseum. It's a town hall broadcast around the world. Let's bring in our Tuesday gaggle, Phil Musser, a Republican consultant and former executive director of the RGA. D.D. Myers served as press secretary in the first Clinton administration. Should have said, how should we refer to that?
Exactly.
Huh? And Nathan Gonzales is the deputy editor of the Rothenberg Political Report and a contributor to Roll Call. So, are you going to be referred to that someday? Will we be introducing you as a press secretary in the first Clinton administration?
I don't think
Clinton
they'll
43 versus
that.
Clinton 45?
Right, but I look forward to Clinton 45. I'm all in. If Hillary decides to run, I'm there.
In all honesty, though, this push, and these are some serious donors of hers, some people you know and recognize. Is there such thing as too early or too soon to do this? And is this how the way other 2016ers will actually physically go on trips to Iowa, New Hampshire, she won't? Is this how they go about doing it?
Well, look, it is a little distracting to have people talking about her. On the other hand, she freezes everything in place, right? The entire Democratic field is frozen in place until she decides what to do. So she doesn't have the luxury of
Mark
waiting
O'Malley
2 years.
he still looks at the travel schedules to Des Moines.
Yeah, he can still do some of that, but he can't raise any money, and he can't really line up supporters. Everyone's going to be on the sidelines until Hillary is in or out. She needs some time. She needs to take a few months, at a minimum, rest, kind of take a lay of the land, and decide what she wants to do. Clearly, there's tremendous support for her deep into the Democratic base, and even into independents and some Republicans who think, look, this is a very, very qualified candidate.
Is the counter in the Republican Party Jeb Bush? Does he have the same ability that she does, or maybe not quite as strong, but similar, to sort of freeze the race if he decides to get in and suddenly block a whole bunch of people?
Probably not as much as Hillary Clinton does in the Democratic Party, but Jeb Bush casts a huge shadow. He's an intellectual leader. He's a political leader. He's well-liked. He's got an enormous access to a big donor network.
And it seems like this time he might actually think about it.
I think I hope he does. I mean, I think Jeb Bush would be a terrific leader for our party. I know him well. He's an excellent guy. I think one of the key things that Dee just said, though, is taking some time off to rest. You're talking to someone who just went through a 2.5-year invisible primary this last cycle. The level of exhaustion and fatigue and process that you have to go through.
When did Tim Pawlenty start?
He started in 2009, in the fall of 2009.
So you do start this early.
So you start, well, you can, but I think actually the lesson of this past cycle is don't start so early. If you look at the late entrance into the Republican primary race, Rick Perry completely changed the tectonics in the arc of that race. Don't start early. Don't raise your hand too soon, because it's not likely to
the early bird doesn't get the worm anymore.
That's right. It's a big lesson.
Secretary Clinton has the advantage of having President Clinton kind of be an unofficial campaigner. I mean, his speech at the convention got a lot of attention, but he was also in dozens of congressional races, I think, laying the groundwork for what he could call back in favors if she
and this time, though, she can start doing congressional races. She joked about that in 60 Minutes. Hey, as Secretary of State, she can't get involved in politics. Well,
I'm sure she just relishes the opportunity to go campaign for congressional candidates.
Well, at least on the Senate level.
Being Secretary of State is sort of like a perfect excuse, right? I'd love to, but I can't, and now she's going to have to go out.
I was trying to do an awkward transition. You guys weren't helping me here. We look at the map and put up some big numbers here. 12 of the 21 seats, Democrats. This is from the Rothenberg Report, and you, Nathan, there, that you have as fairly favored or safe Democratic seats. 14 of the 14 Republican seats you already put there. Even Georgia, an open seat like Georgia, where we have seen the Democratic Party is getting closer every time in Georgia.
Right, and I think with Georgia, I mean, the seat's been open for about 15 minutes, so we have to wait and see who runs on the Republican side, who ends up running on the Democratic side. But even talking with some Democratic strategists, they don't feel like Georgia is quite there yet. I mean, there is a bench.
Certainly not in a midterm. Presidential year would be a different story.
With President Obama still in the White House. And so, someone like Atlanta Mayor Kasim Reed, definitely viewed as a rising star, but I think a lot of people think it might not, later in the decade, might be a better chance for him.
Phil, what's interesting to me is that the story in every Senate race is the same no matter the state you talk about when the Republican Party, which is, how's that primary going to shake out? And is can Washington clear the field for candidate X? Maybe it's Tom Latham in Iowa, it's somebody else in Georgia, or is Club for Growth or some other outside group going to cause problems and create a situation where you have an Indiana?
Well, there are two things I think that you're likely to see. One is the map that we see today is likely to change. Surprises always happen, right? I mean, who knows what's going to happen in Maine, but you're going to see outside groups taking sides in primaries early. That's a new development this cycle. I think that you'll see more aggressive, both on the moderate side side of the party and the conservative party. So that's probably the big thing to watch this cycle.
Democrats, they don't have primary fights anymore.
Not
think
like,
that's going to come back, though?
Well, it always does. I mean, we're Democrats, right? So,
Sure.
but we're having so much fun watching the Republican primary fights. When Mitch McConnell is not safe from a Republican primary challenge in Kentucky right now, that's great news for Democrats.
You're signing on an Ashley Judd's campaign, aren't you?
Yes, I'll be there for that one, too.
All right, stick around. I want to talk a little immigration.
Yeah.
By the way, our own Andrea Mitchell will sit down for her exit interview with Secretary Clinton. You're going to watch that entire interview tomorrow on, of course, Andrea Mitchell Reports at 1 o'clock right here on MSNBC. Trivia, though, we asked who was the most recent chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee to become Secretary of State. I missed this. I assumed it was Muskie. I was wrong. John Sherman. President McKinley, as Nathan knew this, President McKinley's Secretary of State was chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee from 1886 to 1893. If Kerry is confirmed, he will be the first to hold both jobs in 115 years. How about that? Got a trivia question for us? Email us at dailyrundown@msnbc.com. We'll be right back.